about me, I think I'm gonna start. Yeah, for those who don't know about me, never heard about me, this is Okan. You know, I'm the co-founders, one of the co-founders of ALC Cybernetic Technologies. We've been in the market for 15 years in the field working with bioresonance devices, mostly cybernetic biofeedback based applications. But ever since we built our company, it was our strategy to really bring the information and the knowledge first, because I think it's much more important than using and just pushing through buttons and expect something to happen. You know, it's much more than that. It's much deeper than that. So that was our philosophy from day one, to really bring forth this information. That's why we start working with people like Hans, people like Gabor, people like other uh, scientists. So we invited them over 15 years. I don't know how many seminars we made, hundreds, I would say. But our purpose was to really clear the misunderstanding about the concept. Because you see, you go to internet, you go to Instagram, you will see there's a lot of words, lots of uh, descriptions about frequencies, vibrations, oscillations, signals. You know, this is like nowadays, it's a, I don't know, it's a mainstream thing. Everybody likes to talk about this. You know, I tell you why, because I think people start to understand that physical appearance is no more irrelevant. So when the physical is not relevant, people start hitting the gym, stop going to the gym anymore because everybody does it. So there has to be something else to give them a different value in the eyes of the society, put their ego in first. And what they can do is they basically in search of something intangible, and that is knowledge. But of course, knowledge cannot be perceived only by just reading a few books. You know, you have to really investigate. You have to be a seeker, you know. And in order to be a seeker, you really have to dig in. It's not going to come to you. And I tell you, I'm really with open heart today. Whoever is attending to this seminar, it's much more than that. This is a gate opening from the cosmos to really talk. I'm just a mediator. And I will bring some of the data and information here. It's very heavy. Nobody there to talk about it. But I want everybody to really push their limits to understand without any prejudice or bias against it, you know, because your previously perceived information in your mind can be a sort of hurdle. So I want you to really, for a moment, do a little meditation and just forget about what you learned before, and just try to be attentive. You know, I'm not saying put your attention to here, just attend what I say. So I'm gonna cut it short. I can talk more about this subject, but you know, we better move on because I think we have some important things to cover now. So I want to start with matter and consciousness. You can see on the screen right now. You know, we always hear about matter, the consciousness. But first of all, we have to understand consciousness is actually, it's hard to put in a perspective where the mind can really understand and comprehend. But we'll try to use the words, necessary words here to make it possible. So I'm going to get into these subjects in more detail in following slides. So be patient, but just be here with me, please. Now you're going to see some numbers and everything, equations, so don't get intimidated because it's very important. It's a part of the story that I'm going to, tell you. So because at the end, it's going to make all sense, you know. So because please bear it, because this is much more important than, you know, watching a movie right now or a game, you know. It's not going to happen like all the time. So I've been acquiring this knowledge for almost 25, 30 years now. And this is one of the first time that I'm coming forth with all these details. And I'm going to share it all, you know. But remember, this is only a presentation, you know, it's just introductory, you know. So we'll see. We'll move forward. So I'm going to start with the matter and consciousness. But we see, when we look at the universe, we see it. What we see in the universe, matter. And what we talk about it often is consciousness, but consciousness is really impossible to specify. So when we look at it, we see only only two things, matter and consciousness. So what is the difference between matter and consciousness? How did consciousness become matter? I think this is the question of many, many scientists, So what we can do, we try to simplify it and try to understand. But we're going to have a very simple definitions here. Matter and consciousness. Difference between the matter of consciousness of these two phenomena is stability. We're going to open this. So the consciousness, when it is stabilized, it appears to be like a matter, and it materializes. So we can say in the universe, consciousness is everything is consciousness, but it is partially materialized. So all the we know all the matter consists of atoms and protons and electrons. But when we look at, we're going to go in detail, protons and electrons. The first thing we observe is stability. They're eternally stable. Protons and electrons are eternally stable. It's so stable that we cannot really measure their lifespan. You go make any research, you will see in the scientific community, nobody can measure the lifespan of a proton or an electron or atoms. We don't know. We don't know where it began. And it's still there, and they're still stable. Their frequencies are stable. So they're there all the time. So matter and consciousness has two properties. Actually, it's very common two properties. We will see everywhere. Time and space. Through these properties, I think we can really maybe have an understanding. Because you often hear time and space, space-time continuum. Now we're going to have a little understanding, hopefully, and we'll see what really means. Let's move to the second slide. There you go. So time and space. Time and space, I will really extensively talk about it in probably 15 minutes. But now what we can say, time and space is property of everything. And what we can say is the difference of the time and space. Just keep it in mind. When people say, what is the difference of time and space? Frequency. It's very simple. The answer is here, very simple. So when we talk about the matter and consciousness, we talk about stability. But their properties, very common two properties of time and space, we talk about frequencies. So the difference between time and space is the frequency. And now you may be asking, what does that mean? Now we're going to come to that. But I really usually use the method of visualizing so we can keep it in our mind. Otherwise, we're going to forget it. So if you go to very smaller scales, like subatomic scales, like we have the highest frequencies, that. Like if you go and measure the subatomic particles, they're extremely fast. And in here, what means this frequency is so fast that every time everything becomes time. Becomes like time dominated. So if you go to larger scales, on the other hand, larger scales means it's solar scales, like a solar system. We go to galactic scales, the galaxies. Then we have here huge space, because you see the distances between all these heavenly bodies. You see all the planets in the galaxies is extremely high. And with the, one of the fastest vehicles, it takes millions of years or thousands of years get to one to another. Why? Because it's a space-dominated domain. And that part is the frequencies are very low. So the frequencies can be as large as galaxy. So, but now we understand. I'm going to repeat it again. Like time and space, the difference is frequency. So I'm going to make a definition here, and I'll explain it. Extreme scale differences in space creates matter. We talked about the matter just a while ago, but this is another way of defining it. So extreme scale difference, what does that mean? Extreme scale difference means the scale difference is so high between an atom and my observation point as an observer. That thing what I am observing is becoming and manifesting itself as matter. I hope this is clear. So I explained again, extreme scale differences in space create matter. So the only way consciousness manifests itself through my observation point is because of the difference of the scale. So you see, in order to see the atoms, we have to use very strong electron microscopes. You see how far further from us. So that is one of the reason. It's one of the reasons, by the way, that they appear to be in matter. Because the other reason is their stability. And I give you another example. If you were a creator and somebody told you you're going to make a universe, what would you use as a substance? You would want to use a substance which is so eternally stable that it never breaks down. Otherwise, it will collapse. Do you understand? So the creator of this galaxy and the universe, whoever is creating it, it says, I'm going to create in an environment or reality, what we call, from the human consciousness perspective, because we have to distinguish that. We're looking at everything from a human consciousness perspective. And when we look at it, everything is going to be like so solid that they can interact, which means an information exchange. But at the same time, it has to be solid so it doesn't break down. So what kind of substance you would use, or what kind of system you establish? The system that you're gonna establish is stability. It has to be stable. Like you ask everyone, it's very simple. So now I hope it's kind of more clear. So we use the same definition, but this time for the time. Extreme scale difference in time creates consciousness. When a while ago I said extreme scale differences in space creates matter. So when I look at the matter, I said I'm so far that this looks like a matter. But when we apply that to the not to the space, but we apply it to a time, we reach to a consciousness. So meaning the time aspect of time or time free configurations completely come to a halt where I can have an access to the consciousness. This can be achieved through meditation and certain techniques, but where people come to a point, they halt all the thinking, and then they reach the consciousness and they access to a consciousness. And we're going to come to the definition of a consciousness later on in a larger extent, where it's going to make sense. I promise you. So we move forward from here. I already a little bit mentioned about it. Observation of micro and macrocosm. Every time we think and dream, just keep that in mind. We are accessing to not our DNA, not our mind, not our brain. We are accessing to proton and electrons. This is how it is in the subatomic scale. It is like not even in the bones. Like you go even through like very further of your bones, and you're gonna end up in the protons and electrons. And these protons and electrons are so fast and so wise. They're so ancient. Let's put it this way: they're so ancient. Before this civilizations and millions of years, different realities, they were always there. Don't forget that. So these protons and electrons are like two wise men. They're creating you. So who are you gonna go and ask if you have a problem? You're not gonna go and ask ancestral inherited energy. That's something else. People now, energy business, everybody is working with inherited energies. This is fine. But further, you go further, where are you gonna go? You're gonna go end up in the subatomic scales, and you can't go further. And that is where you're gonna end up. Where they have been there for so long watching us, and now they decide to create us, and they know almost all the constant consciousness human consciousness contains from the day one. So that's why these two wise men is part of us. Every time you want to ask something, you don't go back and ask. You go here, and that's why they say you are the universe. Everything is in your system because you made of these oscillators we call quantum oscillators, and then you can access through them, and you can reach all sorts of information. I hope this is clear. This part is very important. So when we observe the universe, as you know this, probably you've seen it, on the documentaries, everything. We cannot observe anything without influence. We become the part of this observed process itself. When you look at something through the microscope, you are looking and you're using a light source. When that light source is an energy, and through that light source, you're creating an impact on a substance, and you're changing with your observation. So when you do this, actually, this part of the substance that you're looking is intertwined with you. It's entangled with you. So that's why you're becoming one. So there is no other way of influencing, watching them without influencing, or observing them without influencing. And the moment you're influencing them, they're becoming part of you, or you're becoming part of you. You're becoming one. So this is why it's so important. But there is another aspect to this. When we do this in terms of microcosmos, we use the microscopes. But when you look at the stars, we use telescopes. So exactly the same thing happens there, because again we're using the light source, and we're watching through our lenses, and through these lights, we are influencing even the larger objects, which seems to be so far from us, and we may think that we wouldn't have any impact on them, but we are exactly having a similar impact on the stars as we are having this impact on the microcosm. So don't forget, every time you look at stars, you're creating them. We're having an influence on them. The same way they're looking at us and they're creating us. So this is maybe there are some other beings in the universe where they're looking, probably not a maybe, but this is a very high possibility. Otherwise, we would not exist. Or I would say the reality construct is based on their observation. Their observation. When they're looking at us, looking at our solar system, looking at our planets. They're creating it, and for them this is very easy because their co-creating abilities and potential is too high. Okay, this is very important. So we're, simply, I hope we're gonna go further in this. This is, I try my best to put this in a format that people can understand. That's my only concern here. And you have no idea if you really understand a little part of this, I'll be happy. So which is why I'm pushing myself. Hopefully it's clear, because I'm trying to make it as clear as possible. So from here, we move on to frequency, because frequency, nowadays you hear it all the time. Right? You go and you ask, maybe you increase your vibration, increase your frequency. Frequency means repetitions, you know that. And everybody probably here who's watching, using this, applications of bioresonance, they're already familiar with the term frequency. Frequency means the repetitions per second. It does not mean anything. When we look at the radio stations, for example, 100.5, it is only a channel. The channel is what is important, is what is broadcasted through the channel. But everybody is just putting their attention to zero. My, I don't know, frequency is 528. Yours is solfeggio frequencies. You have to, I respect, but let's understand the fundamentals first, because then we understand the frequency itself is only a channel, and through this channel we receive information, same as we do it with a radio station. I mean, when you're looking at a radio station or a TV program, you're interested in the content of it. You're not interested in which channel it is being broadcast. I ask you, CNN, who knows about the CNN's frequency band? Who knows and who cares? It's not important. It is really not important. It's just a waste of time. Humanity just got caught up themselves in this, I don't know, never-ending thing. And it's just now maybe through you guys. I mean, you just let other people know. But what is important, the true frequencies, the information is, what is information? What kind of information we're receiving? Okay, let's understand that. But still, I'm going to put a little bit of attention to the frequency. What does it mean in technical terms? So when we look at it, let's imagine a process. It has accumulated like very too many cycles, like billions of cycles, and these billions of cycles occur in terms of frequency so many times that it possesses a lot of information. It's like protons, for example, their frequency is so high, in millions of cycles, billions of cycles per second. I'm talking about seconds. Imagine if I understand the speed here in 1 second, billions of cycles. winning in oscillating and left and right or making a circular move. But it's been there and doing this for a long time. What does that mean? It accumulated abundant amount of knowledge through years, through billions of years. So they accumulate lots of information there. So the frequency in that sense, it's actually way to reach the information. The energy is also is very high in frequency, high frequency. That is why when you look at the frequency, I'm going to give you an example so you can understand. In computers today, we use very fast frequencies. Because we use very high frequencies with our processors, you see the size of the flash disks, they became so small because the information they can contain is much larger. Do you understand it? It's very easy actually, and it's going to be very even smaller than that. And then it will contain like trillions of bytes of data. But you apply that same like a principle to your protons and electrons, I mean, it's mind-boggling, It is too high level of information we can reach. But once I'm going to stick with the topic of frequency, I want you, if you see my hand here, I don't know if you can see it. Like if I want to make it like a wave here, if I increase the space scale, I would say I go up from here to here. It's a larger space, you see. It doesn't matter how fast I want to do this. I can go until to a certain point. But if I just cover an even smaller area, you see, I can do it faster. This is called energy conservation rule in physics. So when you do it very fast, you see how fast I do? You see the spatial property becomes like nothing. It comes to an halt. This is how the protons and electrons are behaving. They're so fast, they seem to be like a solid matter. So to do that, you have to be very stabilized. But look at the next slide. Maybe it's going to give you an idea. This is a very common, you can find everywhere. But you see, you go to the left side of the spectrum, we're going to have a little understanding of its frequency, wavelength, and amplitude. You see the size of this frequency is getting much smaller. And if you increase slow down a little bit, and then you see the low frequency, you have a longer wavelength. So we can associate the right side with the solar system and longer, bigger processes. Macrocosmos, we can associate the left side with the smaller sizes, like microscale, subatomic particles. And here we have very high frequencies. And you go up a little bit, you will see the visible part of this whole part, the wave. This is proton electron actually oscillation. Proton and electron oscillates, it creates gamma ray. It goes a little bit slower, it creates X-rays. It goes a little bit slower, it goes ultraviolet. It comes to a point where we see the 7 colors, the visible range, which is very narrow. And it creates all the material that we see around us. But if it goes a little bit slower than infrared, you see the microwave and radio waves. I think this part, I'm not going to spend too much here, but this is very important so we understand the difference between the larger wavelengths and the smaller and micro wavelengths and the frequencies. So I think this is very clear. I'm sure you understand this part. This is I don't think you would confuse this, but we'll come back to this in a different way later on. So let's get the obvious question out of the way. What is life? So if I ask this question to any of you, I think you're gonna have a lot of different answers, which would be all correct. But I'm gonna make a different kind of definition here, which I think gonna make it more sense, hopefully. The communication only occurs in terms of polarity and duality. First of all, there has to be perception of duality and polarity, which means there is an observer and there is an observer. There is a participator and there is participated process. So there's always two sides of it. In this case, there's an interaction. There is no reality construct. This is a very important phrase. There is no reality construct without interaction. So in order to create reality, there has to be an interaction, an interaction between two, in a duality sense. And then in that case, we can have an information exchange. And through the information exchange, we grow. And that is how the universe expands. This is why we interact with each other. We add new knowledge through our interactions, and this knowledge, it just becomes another bigger process, and then bigger and bigger. And then this is why the universe is expanding. People decide, scientists, you ask these questions from like many years. Why the universe is expanding? Universe is expanding because it is constantly creating interactions through resonance, and through this resonance, it is accumulating lots of knowledge. In other words, it is manifesting its unseen characters or manifestations or aspects of itself that it is visible by the other observers. I hope you get this. So this is why life is communication. If there is no communication, there's no life. This is very simple. So you're gonna ask me, what is the best way of interaction? Okay, we're interacting, but what is the best way? In terms of physics, of course. In terms of physics, the most efficient way of interacting is oscillation. Now we're moving to a different domain right now. These are heavy subjects, but I'll try to make it very easy for you. So we understand life is communication with one another, but the best communication way is oscillation. In other words, the word you are familiar with, resonance. If observer and observed in a resonance, there is a door opens to communicate. So, but it obeys space and time configuration. Do you understand? Like, let's put this on an example. I am talking to someone, and as soon as I'm in resonance with this person, how am I in resonance with? I'm using the same language. If I am not using the same language, I'm not in a resonance. If I start speaking Russian right now, maybe people who don't know Russian, I'm not going to be in resonance with them. They're not going to understand me. And this is called interference patterns. It means it does not mean anything. Your mind cannot make it. So there is no resonance. And when there is no resonance, there is no communication. We cannot open the door. So I cannot tell you what I know or what I feel or whatever. The information cannot flow. So this is the basic principle. First, we have to establish the resonance. And that resonance is established, then there is communication. And there is communication, there's life. This is it's very simple concept. It's basic stuff, fundamentals that everybody has to know, especially people who are in this field, So I think this part is understood. I cannot get feedback at the end of this talk. After Hans, hopefully we're gonna sit down. I will understand feedback later on, anyways. But I'm hoping we're on the same page, Let's move a little further. So we understand this, but I'm going to repeat again. Communication, that is life, and the best way of communication is resonance. You understand? So this is clear. So in that case, we have communication, but this communication opens on the space-time configuration. I have to really add that. It means it has to cover a certain time of period, because when I'm talking, it takes maybe 5, 10, maybe 2 hours. But it has to also occur in a space configuration, whatever it is. Without it, all these things are there, then there is life. You take one of these from the equation, out of the equation, there's no life, because there's no communication. So these are the basics to create life, So whoever is made possible, this is there, so everybody can interact. So we move, then what is resonance and interference? We just a little bit talk about it, but now we're going to extend a little bit the topic. There are two types of communication. I said there's resonance based, but this is a very not very common. You gotta understand, in life, resonance based communication is not very common. It's rare. It's temporary. Even now, when I am in resonance with you guys, it's gonna take maybe 2 hours. Then it's gone. It's a shorter period of time, then it comes on and then it gets off. So resonant base of communication is not long term, because if it's long term, it causes destruction. It's resonance destruction. We're gonna come to that later on. Resonance. You know, let's say if I talk too long with you guys, then there's a point that you're not gonna get anything anymore. But that's what I mean. So it has to cover a certain period of time, you know. But I'm gonna make an example of the planets, how they in resonance with each other. So they're like eternally stable and they're there, and that's why they don't cause any destructive resonance. Otherwise, it will be chaos. You know, other than just 10 or 12 planets in our solar system, you got to understand there's 800,000 objects in our inner solar system and plus the outer solar system. 800,000, not nine or 10 planets only. And they're all going around in different orbits around the sun or different planets. And these are all not causing any destructive resonance. They're not hitting each other. Millions of years pass, you don't see anything. They're all in harmony. How is this possible? Because they're avoiding destructive resonance. And I'm going to explain that, what it is. But first, when I said resonance and interference base of communication is not very ideal. We cannot, you know, establish a clear communication. It is. I give you an example. In radio channels, when you're adjusting between two frequencies, what happens? You see distortion. You don't hear anything, right? That is interference patterns, which is why you don't make any meaning out of it. You're not going to establish any communication through that. But it's very, very common. It's everywhere. So what we understand resonance-based communication is rare. Interference patterns are everywhere, which is why you turn your TV back in the days. What do they see? They see this noise on TV. When they're not adjusted channel, what do you see on TV? The people who use, you know, older TVs, they know what I mean. They see all these little dots, and you know, this is interference. This is there's no channel adjusted channel for communication. But the moment you are adjusting to a channel, what happens? You start to get the picture. You start to get the sound. Then resonance is what established. So now you understand probably resonance-based and interference-based communication. I hope this is very clear. And we move forward. I don't want to complicate it. So it's enough, you know. There's a lot to say about this. You know, I have to tell you, this is introductory, still introductory, but I'm going in a little deep. But there's much more to say about these subjects. Now let's move into light. So in order to understand resonance, we have to understand light, what the light is. You see, we're putting light on this, the concepts which are very common. We all the time hear the time, space, matter, consciousness. What else? We talk about the communication, resonance, vibrations. We're talking about frequency. You see, these are all basic, simple stuff. But now we're going to move on to light. What is light? Okay, I have just one thing you should not be focusing right now is we're not talking about visible light. Visible light. I'm going to talk about visible light. We're talking about the light as a quantum oscillator, which means protons and electrons, you know? So I'm going to make a definition here. You can just note or you keep in mind. Light is a space-time oscillation. Space and time, when oscillates, automatically it creates light. Just earlier I said there is a communication in life. In order to occur, there has to be resonance. But resonance is, in order to establish a resonance between two, there has to be a substance that we're using. I'm using, for example, I'm going to go from the same example. Okay? Oh yeah, because the purpose you understand this. So I'm going to go the same example. What did we say? Life is communication, and the best way to communicate is resonance. Two people are speaking. We're using the same language. What are we using? What are we using? We're using light. Because when I create sound, sound is light. Sound is light. It is only oscillating in a lower frequency than visual light. So which is why I am using a visual perspective in space-time configuration when I am looking the observed, the one that I am observing. I am looking at that person's manifestation of space-time configuration, and I am visually getting the information and giving out my own information as my own visual perception. So what happens between two is light is used. So light is actually is a substance, in other words, that we have to use in order to communicate. And in that case, there is communication, there is resonance. But which is why time and space has to oscillate. They're oscillating. This is eternally, time and space is always oscillating. It's like pretty much like in the sea. You see the waves, but they're always oscillating. It's always moving. There's always movement. Okay, this movement we call light. When space-time oscillates, it's automatically creating light. But we're talking about, again, quantum oscillators. Let's keep this new terminology in our mind. Quantum oscillators, protons and electrons. In physics, they're called light. Okay, and in other words, in quantum physics, this is called light. And the quantum physics study the light, but not only in microcosmos, but also in macro, larger scales. So when people say quantum physics, you don't only think of a little particles, subatomic particles. You also think about the largest aspect of light, which is the galaxies or solar bodies or clusters. They are also a form of light. So when I study quantum, then I study that too. I have to study that too. So this is a little, parenthesis here. So I go back again. I like repetitions so everybody understand. Probably you already got that by now. What we say, space-time oscillates and create automatically light. And quantum oscillators, protons and electrons. So what do we know? We know two quantum oscillators, proton and electron. That is what we, so far, we went through our studies. We know only two, protons and electrons. We don't know any other at the moment. I give you an example in the CERN in Switzerland and different hadron colliders in different parts of the Earth. So they're actually creating new particles, but they don't last for seconds. Do you understand this? They're smashing two particles, and they smash in for a moment. Even they call picoseconds. Picoseconds means you divide 1 second in 1 trillion. Okay, picoseconds. It doesn't last for picoseconds. You understand this. If you divide 1 second 1 trillion, it is very slow process. It's like I can't even say 1 second because it's 1 trillion times slower than that. So and it comes and there is this oscillator, but it goes away. So the difference between this quantum oscillators and protons and electrons are eternally stable, and they're always there. Nobody witnessed their destruction or their death. No, they don't know. So because it's there all the time. So these two quantum oscillators are creating our reality. This is what we have to keep in mind. Okay, let's move forward. Then we come to visible light. I'm going to be a little fast forward because I don't want to really, I don't know how much you're enjoying this, but this is a lot of things I have to talk. And there's Hans, he has to really cover his subjects. So I'm going to kind of accelerate from this point one. Visible light is, as you see on the a previous slide, is a very tiny window. It's still fast, but it's comparing the size of the universe, it's too slow. So don't get too excited when you hear that, the visible is 300,000 or whatever kilometers per second, whatever. It's very slow, in fact. Really. We're comparing to electron frequency and proton frequency, which is made out of the same thing, material. Because proton and electron resonance oscillates, they create visible light. Okay? When we say space-time oscillates, it creates light, right? So when it slows down a little bit, it creates a visible light. So we can see, we can interact. Okay? But electrons and protons, two wise men. Let's go back these guys, they oscillate so fast. I give you an example: 10 in the power of 24. What does that mean? You put 24 zeros after 10. I don't know what the number is, but this is like extreme trillions of trillion per second. So this is the frequency. In 1 second it does that, and it does 10 in 24 seconds, 24 zeros. You understand? You perceive the speed of this. I mean, it's much, much, much faster than the visible. So, but let's talk about the visible light. Visible light, we know that it is in the 400, terahertz, 800 about terahertz. It's still fast in very small narrow area. It doesn't have an inertia, and its velocity is very high, and it has no mass. So when you look at this, what would be your definition about light? It has no mass, no inertia. It's too fast. What do you call this? Can you call this matter or consciousness? So the visible light is more, we could say easily, comfortably, visible light carries much more qualities than matter light, the conscious than the matter. So one can say the visible light is consciousness. If you want to see the consciousness, you see the visible light. Or different spec. This is or put it in different perspective. Matter is also representation of consciousness too. We said in the beginning, what is the difference between matter and consciousness? Stability. They are the same. So matter is also consciousness. So everything is alive. Everything has because everything has a connection to protons and electrons. What we said, they're the most wise. All the information, accumulated knowledge there. So we assume they're not alive. When you look at these, I don't know, the mountains, when you look at the rocks, but their temporal scale is different, which means they move so slow. They're slower than us that we assume that they're not alive. For example, take the example as a quartz crystal. Crystal moves in millions of years. It's very, very fast, very slow. But if you fast forward, it acts like it's moving. It's moving like I don't know, snail. It's moving like it also replicates. Quartz, the crystals replicate. It's like same way that we replicate. So if we put in perspective, we fast forward and put it in front of our eyes, and if they have the same time configuration, same time scale, then we would understand that they're actually alive because they're moving. But because their movement is so slow, we assume that they're not. So, but they're alive. So keep that in mind. Why the planet is alive? Because planet is exactly made of the same material, light. So whatever is made of light is always alive. So it's not about the biological life. Even in biological sense, they're alive, because they're moving, So they replicate, they do all sorts of stuff. So let's move on. Protons and quantum oscillators, we already mentioned about it. I'm just gonna give you a little information here. These two eternally stable waves of light, they're actually waves. Protons and electrons, they oscillate. But this part is, I think, very important. I hope you can pay full attention here, because our reality constructed based upon two oscillators, and protons and electrons. But the smallest version of the universe, or let's say, and we don't know if our universe is the smallest version. Smallest version of the universe must have 19 oscillators. 19, not 2. So when we think in terms of the oscillators, if there is 19 oscillators, you can create different realities. And if we use only 2 realities, two oscillators, then we create this. So if, as a co-creative potential of you and me, if we are able to use 19 oscillators, you just imagine what kind of reality we can make. That this is why it's very important. We are here to actually expand the human consciousness evolution. So through our resonance interactions, what we are doing is we're actually adding more qualities, more consciousness into the human consciousness. And it reaches to a point where it can use not only 2 oscillators, but it can use 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, 19 oscillators. With 2 oscillators, we create these realities. Imagine with more oscillators, what kind of reality we could construct. Okay, let's move. Electron, I'm going to really fast forward because I already exceeded my time. Electron and proton lifespans. I already mentioned, which is, you see the number, like billions of years. So nobody can measure it. So here you see the frequency of proton and electron. You see the 10 in the power of 20. The electron is a little bit slower than the proton. But what I can tell you, proton is 1,836 times bigger than electron. So the proton is heavier. Proton is actually all the physical world around us made 95%, maybe more, 99.5% from the proton. The only the 5%, maybe the 0.5%, very small amount is electron. I give you this example. If you're 80 kilo, just take a person who's at 80 kilos. 79.5 kilo is made out of proton. Only 50 grams or 500 grams is made out of electron. You know, so you see this. When we think and talk about the material world, we're in fact talking about protons, basically, because our physical reality is based on this. Okay, co-creative potential of a human mankind. You know, this is. You know, I'm sorry because this is the way. The problem here is, if I go into this subject, it's going to take at least 3-4 hours. So I'm going to fast forward. This stuff are going to be available in the future if we come together, and you know our different distributors also watching here right now, new distributors also. We can go into these details, and then you know large amount of time with two. These are because it takes 4 to 6 days to talk about this. I make it smaller, but still not enough. So co-creation, we are the co-creators. We create the universe when we are interacting with the universe. So as a co-creator potential, we're taking baby steps. Human consciousness, in comparing to the other creators in the universe, it's baby. You know, we're still on the floor. We're still like crawling on the floor. But you may ask, what is the significance of now, this time, today? This is the first time the human conscious baby in the whole human history is actually going on its feet. Okay, but it's still baby, you know. So that's why it's very relevant for the other watchers out there, you know, who are creating our realities by just observing it. That we actually stand up and walk, you know, which is why we're supported. Let's put it that way. Okay, this part already mentioned. Co-creators, when we look at the distant stars, we're actually creating an impact on them, you know, and we create them. And as I said, I have to a little further to finish this, guys. Numbers, because this is very important. So we said the protons and electrons are very stable, but you must ask me how they're very stable. Why? They're stable due to number continuum. This is very heavy topic. I don't, but this is you understand it. There is a reason why they're stable. The reason they're stable is because the interactions are based on transcendental numbers, and transcendental numbers, there's only two. One is Euler's number, 2.718. The other one you already know, number pi. The importance of these two numbers, they're eternal. You cannot calculate them. So this is why these two numbers, basis of all the reality we see, all the construct, because they, as I said, there's eternal, they create the eternal stability, which is why protons and electrons are based on transcendental numbers, which is mainly Euler numbers. So Euler number is creating the protons and electrons. Okay, I'm gonna cut it here. This is very because it's a longer topic. We go in detail later on. But just to give you a little bit of understanding why numbers are important, this part, pay attention. Numbers, when we say number, we're talking about the quantity. Also, we talk about vastity. Quantity meaning it's just the accumulation. Maybe we have one apple, I have two apples, I have three. This is accumulation, you know. But this is also we use the space time aspect of it. But the quantity has also a space aspect. Why? This is why we use square meters, we use cubic meters, we use pyramidal numbers, pyramids. This pyramid number, pyramidal numbers. So that means the numbers, when we start counting, we have 2, 3, 4. It means time. It has a time aspect. It also has a space aspect. Okay, just that. Keep this basic. Keep in mind. So this means resonance. Whatever there is, whatever is the ratio, there is a numbers. There is a ratio, and ratio always means equilibrium. You know, when there's equilibrium, there is light. When there's light, there is communication. When there's communication, there's light. Which is why I am putting all this in a fast forward manner here, so people can, you can hopefully understand. So let's move. Okay, this is an example. Probably I'll be able to explain it to you. Where when we say number one, number two, number three, actually number two is number one, two. Number three is number one, two. Number 10 is also number one. But what does that mean? These numbers are different expressions of number one. Number one is actually adding every time a different kind of the experience, and through this experience, it creates another attractor point. When there, it stabilizes and creates number two. And number two, through the point of number two, it creates different kind of accumulation. It creates number three. So, but they're all different versions of number one. So, which is why it doesn't matter which number you refer to. They're all number one, and that's why everything is one. Okay, all is one. So, also, this is also a very long topic. It requires hours. We'll pass this. Orbital periods of planets. I give you an example here. Yeah, you will understand this. In solar system, we said there is a stability. In order to have this stability in the solar system, their orbital periods, you know, they go around the sun. They should know, they should be not whole numbers. When they're whole numbers, in time, they're actually creating a resonance in this region. But this is created by, again, with transcendental numbers. So then there's a stability in it. So also we pass this part. Venus here is the same example, just one of the planets in our solar system. But its period, the period of orbital period is less than 1 year. If it's not like it's a 0.615. So what does that mean? If it was a whole number, 2, 3 years exactly, then we would go on resonance. We will rock each other. The Venus and Earth, in some point in time, they would come. Their orbits would come and actually create catastrophe. But to avoid this, the solar system, it uses protons and electrons through the transcendental numbers, which avoids a destructive resonance. I hope it's clear. I'll fast forward, guys, here because I don't have. Okay, here is the time. Here's the thing. All the planets in our solar system, they have couples. Saturn and Jupiter is a couple. Neptune and Uranus is a couple. Earth and Venus is a couple. But when you see their connection, when they, even our solar system has a couple. Alpha Centauri is our couple. So when they're moving, actually their relative movements in space, they create these shapes in space. And you see they're like beautiful. They're pretty much like the snowflakes and all that. You see the geometrical. So if this is, we apply the same in orbital movements of electrons and protons, and then we see all geometrical configurations. So it doesn't matter if the light is moving in a small, very fast frequencies, it creates these, and also it creates all in the space. It creates this kind of space geometrical configurations. Okay, and the reason to do this is because they're all based on logarithmic nature of the universe. Logarithmic nature means again transcendental numbers and number continuum. Okay, let's move. Creation is not coincidental, not accidental. This part, should I talk? Yeah, well, Yeah, guys, I'm doing this fast, and I lost my because when I do faster, then I can't focus, and I want to talk about a lot of things, and time is not enough. Which is why I'm kind of off right now, because I'm trying to do it in a quick possible way. Okay, let's move. Light horizon. Light horizon. Light horizon is, I think I brought this up because we hear all the time the age of the universe. The age of the universe is 13.8 billion years. This is what they say. But in fact, it's not, because the 13.8 billion years is actually our light horizon, which means from that point on, everything appeared to be light. They don't have physical, the structures anymore. It does not mean they don't exist. We just cannot see them. We all perceive as light. Okay, so 13.8 billion is actually the from our the point of observation from Earth. If you look at from different parts of the solar system, this is relative. Every observer have their own light horizon. So meaning the age of universe is now 13.8. So it is much more than that. Actually, it has no age because it's never started. This is yeah, and at another time, guys. We go into fractal. We hear the term also a lot, fractals. Fractal means actually the larger is the structure, the larger is the distance between them. If the city is big, let's say Istanbul, the next big city is going to be much further than, because it is also big. It's same, we apply it on our arms, the fingers. Your fingers are small, and you see the distance between them is smaller. Your arms are bigger, but the distance between your arms and your body is larger. Your legs are bigger, so you see the between is larger. This is a fractal structure. This is fractal structure. It's valid everywhere. You see it, even in the trees. You see it everywhere. But how does it occur? This occurs only due to proton and electrons, which we call fundamental fractal. I'll come to that now. But before we come to that, I want to talk a little bit of time. Time is not linear as we perceive. Time is also fractal. It has a depth. It has a density. It is not linear. It doesn't go only through one direction. It has, as I said, it's a density. It goes deep down. It embedded cycles. That's why our definition about light is embedded cycles. The light is embedded cycles. Keep that in mind. All the cycles creating smaller cycles and they create bigger cycles, and they constitute that smaller cycles, and then another cycle, bigger cycle, creates a larger cycle. So they're all embedded in each other, and this is what we call time. So that is why it is very difficult to make accurate clocks. If you ever wondered why the clocks, when they use lots of little wheels, because these wheels are actually there to compensate. Otherwise, they could have made it only from one wheel. But when they make it with one wheel, it's always deviates, in time, because it follows automatically. It goes in resonance with the real time, and it starts to slow down, and sometimes it accelerates, and sometimes it even stops. So which is why they try to compensate it through putting there like hundreds of different wheels there, so it can always follow one stabilized path, which is why it doesn't show real time, because real time is in fact fractal. This is real time look like. This is all the embedded cycles with one another embedded in each other, as you can see. You see, this is a complex structure. Okay, I will try to reach here, guys. So I'll do this part, then I'm gonna pass it to Hans. This is the fundamental time fractal. You see the blue points. What does the fundamental time fractal is? It's actually made out of protons and electron resonances. Okay, and we call these protons and electrons the metronomes of the universe. They're always there, and stable. And these metronomes, they're creating, as I said, all the reality around us. So when you look at these numbers here, the blue part is actually means proton, and the red part is electron. Okay. When we start the process, the time that we're starting this, the moment we started, it has to follow this fundamental fact. So every process, every oscillation, the moment it starts, it automatically follows a fundamental fractal. And this fundamental fractal, as you see it here, it means lots of numbers and all that, I know. But this is actually how the time is constructed. You see, when we reach at the 6 seconds, it becomes, you see on the left side on the bottom, it reaches the proton resonance. What does this white dot here, that line means? This means no. We call proton no. But here there is an interaction, the communication. So we use the 26, 20, we go move to 26, 27 seconds, and then we go to move to red electron part. And 2 hours, 9 hours, 40 hours. You see but you go up, you see 2 years. You see 2 years coincide with the proton and proton resonance. What does that mean? It basically means in 2 years' time, this is why all the devices, all the electrical equipment, anything you buy, they actually they give you 2 years warranty, because the 2 years warranty when they reach to actually the proton resonance. And this is likely something is going to happen, because there's event density is too high, which means there's something, it's dynamic process, something is going to happen physically. Because why? Because protons, we said, protons are actually all the material world we see around us, like 99%. So which means if something is going to happen with the proton resonance, it means this physical structure of this thing is going to change, or something is going to happen. You understand? This is 37 years. Look at the 37. Look at your lifetime. Who passed 37 years already know. This is the place, a time where people usually have physical problems, or they move from their places to another. They build a new life, or they establish a new company, or they move to a new apartment. You name it, but something physical. We have a way to read this, and we have also seminars about this. But I'm gonna fast forward you too. So the same proton electron is also coinciding with our bodies. You see our hearing, our vision, our muscles, brain. You see the heartbeat. If you look at it, you see the numbers. At the right hand side, you see number 15, breathing. It is actually electron resonance. What does it mean? It's 15 times we breathe in one minute. In general. So heartbeat is 67 times. It coincides with the proton. Why proton? Because it's muscle. It's physical. You get the idea? Maybe it's clear. So the matrix as a fundamental fractal. This is what you see is what people refer as matrix. Matrix is the reality construct, which is it's put there in order for us as human consciousness to interact and learn. And this is secured by, I'm gonna get to the bottom line. This is secured by the transcendental numbers, or all the numbers, and also protons and electrons. So it is so solid that we can have this life experience, But it's growing all the time. So when people say what is matrix, matrix is fundamental fractal. This made of protons and electrons. It is much deeper than that, but sorry, I have to keep it slow. And then we move to this subject. I'm gonna pass that to you guys. So polarity and duality, because it is a disrespect. I have to really, if I'm gonna explain this, I'm gonna explain it in fully, and I did not consider the time. So polarity and duality, there is no reality without duality, and there's no duality without polarity. There has to be a polarity. So the polarity does not mean actually two. It is two the reasons of their own existence. So when we talk about the polarity, one end without the existence of one end, the other one would not be there. So which is why very existence of one polarity, one end, is the very reason of the other end's existence. Which is why the reality, the polarity is established, and through this duality we experience life. Okay, this is the short way of explaining. We are constantly creating, we as co-creator, we are as co-creators in the universe. We're actually, when we look at it, there's in galactic scales, there are other beings who are creating us, as I just pointed out before. But our job here, this is my own remarks, by the way. This is, I already put somewhere, I wrote it down, but shortly I want to share it with you. The smaller me, like me, is in actually the living testimony of the whole me. Why? Because it's here to testify and validate its existence. Through what? The observing via interacting. So I'm going to put this, I'm going to explain a little bit more. Smaller me, which is me, small scale fractal me, is the living testimony of the whole me, which is the bigger me, which is the whole universe. Why? Because it's there to get an interaction, to testify and validate its existence and manifested aspects of it. So it's there, it contains everything in it. The consciousness contains everything in it. It's there, but it has to be manifested. Why, how, when, and how we can manifest? Through the resonance, through communication, which is why everybody on this earth, it doesn't matter what, they're actually going in resonance and they're adding new aspects of the reality. Okay? I think, I'm pretty much done here. But I want to point out the last, maybe the half an hour, 15, I have to go very quick, guys, so, because there is, time is not enough. I should have made it like 15, 20 slides, but this is my intention. I wanted to share as much as possible, we requires more time, more attention to it. But you see these subjects on the screen. Apart from what I mentioned, introductory. This is all introductory, simple aspects. We actually taught fundamentals of protons, electrons, force and energy, B2 and symmetry, dimensions, space-time, hyperspace, geometrical complexity. This is entropy. It's very important topic. Mirror effect, which I couldn't really cover. So hopefully, if you're really interested in especially talking to the distributors, we can establish and put seminars out there so we can go into these subjects and study through weekends and with a larger extent of time. That is my way. But as the last slide, I'm going to tell you guys, this is the device that we made. Out of all this, what you see out there, the quantum oscillators, we use this knowledge and we use one of a kind, it's first of its kind, this device. And I'm telling you why it is important, because it is one and only device in the world. It uses protons and electrons resonances. What does that mean? It is pretty much like a part of the nature. It's like an apple. It is produced like imagine Ozzy and I or my sister as a tree, and this is our fruit. So, and the fruit is in resonance with our biological processes, and our biological processes follow protons and electrons. So whatever you use as a device, it has to go in resonance, as I explained, for communication and in a perfect way, not just it has to be very coherent and perfectly in harmony, which is why it is very important that its frequencies are all modulated by protons and electrons. This is the only device in the world follow fundamental fractal protons and electrons, and also fractal time, which is why when you use it, it really adjusts its time according to fractal structure of the time. So it picks it, not the time that we know, linear time, fractal time. So that's why when it is actually measuring, it is measuring and calculating how much time is based on the fractal time. So this is really one unique device that you can't find any example of it. I think I'm done. I'm sorry for really going a little bit fast at the last 20, 30 minutes. Okay, guys? And from now point on, I'm going to pass it to Hans. And I'm sorry, Hans, it took a little while, man, but you see the intensity of the subject. So I had to, I wanted to share all, but I was not enough. Okay? For me, okay. I'm done here, guys.
Thank you very much, Okan.
It's okay. My pleasure.
Hans?
Yes, I
Hiya.
Hi. Hello, everyone. I have not so much time doing with all this theory. It is very hard to understand for if you are not being aware what happens in the universe. But Okan tried to give an insight what this technique is being put in this beyond. I work with the beyond for from the beginning. I also been there with that we begin from scratch to building up this system, and it is a really an amazing. Can you see me? No.
No,
no.
we cannot see it.
Wait a minute. Can you see me now?
No.
What happens? Now?
Yes.
Now
We can see you now.
From the beginning and in the test trials, we see the power of the beyond, and it is very amazing to see what it can do. It works very subtle, and I have for 2 years ago I've been very ill, and I used it by myself, and even in hospitals they are being amazed what I have done with this light. But I will try to bring up my PowerPoint presentation a little bit, not too much. I think you are a little bit exhausted. Do you see my presentation? Can I get my presentation up to you or not?
No, we cannot see it.
Ooh. It is difficult. Do you see this?
No.
Can you take it up to you?
I
Hi,
can.
Hans. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. If you put this in the bottom, share with screen, your screen.
Yeah.
Do you see?
Yes, I see it.
Yes. Can you put this?
Share.
Yes, share.
Wait a minute. Okay, now I try to this share.
Yeah.
We are there.
It's done. It's done. Okay.
It's done. Thank
Yeah.
you to help me
You're
out.
welcome.
Okay, first, what is Okan was telling that the power of light, and how does it work? This beyond is because we use two parts of the light and also the frequencies. So if I can produce my slide, yes. The two parts are red light and infrared light. This is also in the sun, but in the beyond, it is also with the Euler logarithmic system is put in, and it works if you put the beyond on a place in your body. It will measure your state of energy, and it will be see where and how much light and power you need. So and if we have a cell, we have in the cell we have energy factories. We call it mitochondria. In the mitochondria, we have a very beautiful system. we call it Krebs cycle of the citric acid circle. And they are, by biochemistry, it will provide us from ATP. That is, ATP stands for adenotriphosphate, and that is the energy that we need. Our whole system needs ATP. And one mitochondria is making about 38 ATP. And if the red light is coming on the cell wall is react on red light, it will be open. And then the infrared is coming into the mitochondria, and then something fabulous is working. Because it's not only the infrared, but there's also the technique behind the proton resonance is doing the work in the mitochondria. It's also that it is been coupled with frequencies. It is coupled with frequencies by you can't hear it, because it is also working in a high pitch in your ear and also in your magnetic waves. So all this triangle is coming in this mitochondria, and it works. And then it begins by the first step. That is the first step. We call it citrate, and then isocitrate, and then it's going around. And then we come here by succinyl CoAcetyl. This is a very powerful step to produce ATP. Normally, one cycle is 38 ATPs, but if we put the light of the beyond on it, it is 10 times 38 ATP. It gets a boost about 38 ATP. So imagine what happens with your energy factory. You give them a boost. And this is the image how it is been producing this enzyme. And this is the key to produce a lot of ATP with the radiation of the beyond. And then you have you can't imagine what happens in the body. It gives so much boost that we can treat some illnesses, and also we provide that the self-healing stage is being going higher. That is very amazing, because if you have a wound, the wound will be quickly closed. If you have a fracture, it will be the fracture normally it is about 6 to 8 weeks when the bone is regrow again. But we have seen with the beyond in 2 weeks, and we have made scans. It is very fabulous. For me, the most profit for the beyond is at that time is we live in a very stressful time, and you know that stress is what do you call it? He's the big killer, and a lot of it is jeopardize your immune system. It weaken your immune system, and if that has happened, then you have big problems. The other profit that we can have from the beyond is that we can turn over and to get lost of this heavy e-smoke what we have daily get to your body. Every day we are being bombarded with e-smoke. In your house you have low frequencies. You have, if you step out, you have high frequencies. You have G4, G5. You have, if you go to fly, you will be radiated. In shops, you have been radiated. Daily, you have your mobile on your pocket or in your vest, and you've been radiated. It will be give a strong interference with your basic cell rhythm. We call it Schumannwelle. If Schumannwelle is about 7.83 hertz, and it can be 12 hertz, but that is where the cells, they have a rhythm. These cells need this frequency, otherwise it will be not working well, and you have a lot of problems, sleeping problems, immune, metabolic illnesses. It's too much to tell about all these problems, and we see this daily, that people has disturbance in this 4 brain waves. You know, the beta waves, you know, you have heard from the alpha waves, the theta waves, and delta, that is the sleeping. And it is also by a lot of people who are sensitive for electrosmoke. It is a catastrophe because they have a lot of problems. But by the beyond, you can give the push that the delta is going the own rhythm, and then you see people are being calmed out. They are not so stressful. They have they are not hyper. They are not so hysteric. This is one of the very powerful things in the beyond, because the beyond has I think 72 programs, and a lot of buyers from on our side. Now I get very, very good feedbacks, and they are very glad that they have buy it, because they see now what the investment is bringing them. This is one of the part that we use a lot in the beyond, endorphin, because endorphin is the big promoter for a lot of give a lot of interaction. You see here cortisol, you see oxytocin and MDA, you see melatonin, cholecystokinin, you see progesterone, estrogen, even vitamin D has been interact with endorphin, cytokines, anti-cancer. There's also an anti-cancer medicine is endorphin, like dopamine. We have here regulation between insulin and glucose. So I'm very glad that on Beyond there are 2 endorphins for the central nerve system and the peripheric nerve system, so you can regulate this. I want to show you a little bit intimacy for me, because this is my wound. It was very big because it is been photographed after 1 week on the IC, because the wound was very big. This is a little bit smaller, but we were directly after the operation. We have been radiated with the Beyond this wound, and even the doctors, they tell me it is a very big wound. They see not so much big wounds there, and they want to fill it out with tissues from my leg. And then I refused, and we've been beginning to radiate. And then you see here in the middle photo, you see this, that the wound is closing up with no operation. It is only that we radiate 2-3 times a day with the Beyond. And this is after about 1 month radiation. And after 1 month, it's been closed. Even in my groin, I have big wounds, left and right. And this wound was closed nearly in 1.5 weeks. You see here the stage. So for me, it is, I was convinced, but even the doctors are being amazed, but they don't believe in this theory, but they, you know, this is they miss this. It's a missing chance for them to use this in the hospital. I hope that the doctors in Istanbul will use this to benefit to the patients. On the Beyond is also a lot of organs that you can treat, and because nowadays we have a lot of problems with digestive, all this terrible side effects, but by high stress, and it will be affected on one organ. One of the organ that is been going down in the lifestyle that we live is always the spleen and pancreas. That is why I give the people my advice: treat regularly your pancreas and your spleen. You see also on this side the connection, the causal chain of the spleen between all the other organs. So if you treat the pancreas and spleen, you always been treating indirect all the other systems. You see here the heart, you have the sinus, you have your gallbladder, your intestines, your liver, your stomach, thyroid, and even they have a connection to the kidney and the hypothalamus and the pituitary. So you have so much choices with the Beyond, and it is powerful. I think the people who work now with the Beyond, they will tell you the same stories that they the story that they get daily from the practice. And it is, for me, it is one of the best light systems on the market. And as Okan always told already, this is the unique light system, because I work with other light systems, but it is not the same with the Beyond. It is very, very unique. And also the techniques behind this is from, yes, it's a high performance. So I hope that you can pull through and to explore the work of the Beyond. And I think for every family it is maybe a big investment, but that is priority number one in the world where we now live in high stress. And I always said, also in seminars, we are being, you see that the cancer rate is coming up and all this metabolic system is up because it is a dysfunction in one organ, because lives begin in the pancreas, because pancreas is the trigger from all the biochemistry. And I'm still bewildered that a lot of doctors don't see this priority. All the cancers is always beginning in the pancreas, because cancer is a failing system in the biochemistry. And all this, what they do is radiation, chemotherapy, and it should be more easier. I think the Beyond can be also benefit for cancer treatment, but I think I can't say loud out. Otherwise, we have problems with big pharmacy. So I hope this is an understatement from me, and I hope that you have provide this little information from my side. Thank you all, and I hope that you have a long and healthy life. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Hans.
Thanks, Hans.
Yes, thank you.
And thank you very much to everyone to participating here. So have a good night.
Bye-bye.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, Hans.